Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana. This is your Shut the Fuck Up. Well, it could also be considered a chain reaction because I seem to be having a chain reaction of something tonight. This is what set me off. Let's blame Joe Biden for everything. The latest is we're going to blame Joe Biden for the baby formula shortage because we can. It doesn't matter that, there are facts surrounding this that belie the fact that Joe Biden had nothing to do with it. But that really does not matter to the right wing because they don't operate on facts. They operate on bullshit, okay? So, do you know why there's a baby formula shortage? So first of all, there's a baby formula shortage because there are really only 4 manufacturers of baby formula in the United States, okay? And one of those manufacturers, Abbott Laboratories, had to shut down the plant in Sturgis, Michigan, and recalled infant formula because a federal investigation found that after 4 babies drank that formula, they developed bacterial infections and 2 of those children died. Now, Abbott says their product had nothing to do with that. And that may be what every corporation says when something like this shit happens. But the fact is that the FDA cannot allow that situation to exist without checking it. It is just the way it is. All right? Like with everything else. Baby formula is regulated. Pharmaceuticals are indeed regulated. So for the people who think that pharmaceuticals aren't regulated, let me give you a tip. My company manufactured filtration products used in the manufacture of pharmaceuticals and vaccines. And every time we changed a material, or even if we just changed the manufacturing process itself, we could not sell our product to pharmaceutical companies until the FDA came in and inspected our facility and inspected the manufacturing process. So for the people who say that things aren't regulated in the United States, go fuck yourself. Okay? I'm tired of hearing you whining. And I'm tired of hearing you whining over the infant thing, the infant formula thing. It is not Joe Biden that created this problem. In fact, the infant formula manufacturing process was already in a bit of disarray due to pandemic problems, the ability to get some of the products required to manufacture it. My little store, is having a problem getting paint from Benjamin Moore because they cannot access some of the ingredients in the paint. And we have been told as of today, because the Benjamin Moore rep was in, that it's going to be another rough summer and fall of getting that paint in any real quantity consistently. So this is just exacerbating an existing problem. Now, I've also heard and seen commentary. Well, then why don't women just breastfeed? That's a lovely thought. But it's an odd thing. When I was working at Starbucks, we were very breastfeeding friendly. And I seem to recall that mothers sitting up the back of the store breastfeeding their children would be subjected to snide remarks. And we even had some men who came up to the register and complained about it happening. So shut the fuck up, really. Okay? Shut the fuck up. The other thing is, if your child has self-weaned, to try to go back to breastfeeding can be a process, particularly since a mother's milk can dry up after breastfeeding stops. Not always. Sometimes it's possible, but not always. There is no simple fix for this. Now, Joe Biden has just invoked the Defense Production Act, which means that the products used in the manufacture of this formula has to go to the manufacturing of this formula before it can go to any other company looking for those ingredients. Abbott Laboratories can start up production again in 2 weeks, but it will take several weeks for them to get production back up to the level where it will alleviate the problem. And Abbott Laboratories will be doing that under supervision from an outside oversight group, because safety is of paramount concern. The other thing is, and we're going to get back to the breastfeeding thing, we're not a really great country when it comes to providing, paid maternity leave. In fact, I believe we are the only industrialized nation that does not offer that. Am I right about that? Yeah. So we're not really good at that stuff, Let's see. The other issue is there are disparities among people. People who are poor versus people who aren't poor. People who are poor, black people, Latino people, who live at or under the federal poverty level, they can't stay home from their jobs and breastfeed. They need to return to work in order just to survive with their children. And those jobs that most of those people have are not accommodating for breastfeeding or to express milk during the workday to bring home to a child. We're not really very progressive on many fronts here in America, no matter what people think. One would think that the richest nation in the world could make some accommodations for women. The women that they don't want to have abortions, the women that they want to keep spitting out children, but we don't want to make any accommodations for those children after they're out of the womb. Remember that discussion? Because that's all part of this too. So before you go out there with your, political, rhetoric as we get into the election season now about how Joe Biden's responsible for just about everything, including nuclear winter, shut the fuck up, because no one's interested in hearing you. And if you care so much about the children, you'll understand why we're not just going to put a company like Abbott Laboratories back online when there could be a potential health hazard for those children. But, I digress, because, those children aren't in the womb, so they really don't matter to anybody on the right now. When they're out of the womb, you don't give a fuck, and that is a fact. Why? Because we'd have Head Start programs if you did. We'd have breastfeeding accommodations for all women if you did. And the bill now that's in the House that's going to be voted on will probably die in the Senate, because the House will pass it, but the Senate, that's got too many Republicans for it to pass. And they're balking at spending any new money while they blame Joe Biden for the formula problem. They don't want to spend any money to fix that problem. So once again, the Republicans are going to get in the way because that's what they do best. They actually don't govern. They obstruct. They oppress. And they fucking lie. So no, there's not a baby formula shortage because Joe Biden's giving it all to the migrants at the border. That's actually not happened. That's actually what's out there in the netherworld of morons on social media. In fact, the market share of what is given to immigrant children amounts to 0% of the market share. So let's get that straight too. I have all these statistics. I'll put them in. You won't look at them because they're actually based in fact, and you are allergic to fact. But I'm not. That's the only way I operate. That's why my group is called the Factivist Project. We don't operate on, what was that called? Conspiracy theories. Yeah, we don't operate on those. Conspiracy theories are for morons. They actually don't accomplish anything. In fact, that's why most people like them, because then they can be victims of some kind of evil, hidden plan to make our lives miserable. That's the first part of this video. Let me get into the second part of the video. I happen to overhear somebody I know talking today about how June 19th coming up as a federal holiday. And, you know, he was remarking about how he's going to have the day off. I happen to know this guy is a fucking racist. I mean, a really bad racist. In fact, I try never to speak to him because I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut with some of the crap that comes out of it. So, again, let me say to all of you fat, white, American bigot men out there, you won't have any problem getting a day off on the backs of slaves, though, will you? Of course not. In case you don't know what Juneteenth actually is, it was the day that the slaves were emancipated in Texas, of all places. That's what Juneteenth is all about. You know, none of this gets easier. I'd also like to talk just for a couple of minutes before I shut down this video about the primaries. So yeah, Madison Cawthorn lost. Big woo. You know, the man was unfit anyway, so, I mean, he lost because, honestly, he basically shot himself in the head with all of his scandals and all of his shit talk and all of his garbage. So he had to go. But I hear people out there celebrating. It's a little early because an awful lot of Donald Trump's endorsements are panning out for him. Mehmet Oz may not, but the guy running against Mehmet Oz isn't any better. I want to caution everybody on the left not to think you can just sit back now and take the midterms off. There is a very long way to go here. And if you want a better result from what the Democrats are trying to do, you're going to need to give them a bigger majority than they have right now. Because this is the way it's going to be. Do you understand? Do you understand how the Roe v. Wade codified vote went? Are you aware of this? Every single member of the Republican Party, including the women, blocked that. And one Democrat, Joe Manchin, Even with Manchin's vote, it would have been an uphill battle. Understand this, folks. You want a better result? You're going to need to do better. You are going to need to do better. You're going to need to do better because the GOP is not going to cooperate. And the GOP, by the way, has stated if they take back the House and Senate, they intend to stymie anything Joe Biden does for 2 years. And they are already planning not to approve another SCOTUS nominee if he gets one before his term is up. I don't know what more you need to understand what's going on here, but I'll keep at it until you fucking get it. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the results of the primaries. I'm going to put the article in here and expect you to read it. There'll be information in here on the baby formula thing. There'll be information in here about Juneteenth. You can choose to look at it or you can choose to ignore it. But in the meantime, I would like to tell everybody on the right to just shut the fuck up because Joe Biden is not responsible for the baby formula shortage. Okay? It's election season, folks, and the finger pointing has begun. Enjoy yourselves.